And this
you
is
know.
in an environment where there have been layers and layers and layers of proprietization, making us property, making us believe that we're property, making us act like we're property, even if we say we don't believe we're property.
Yes.
Behave in ways that we would never have behaved if we had had our sovereign reality be something that we were connected to instead of disconnected from.
Right. So I want to bring up the point because you're reminding me to say this. I wanted to say it earlier, but I lost track. So everything is under civil law, right? Everybody, you got to be civil. You got to be civil. Civil. Where did civil come from? Well, it came from Rome. It came from Justinian, right? Justinian reformed the entire civil structure. Okay. One of the greatest emperors of Rome, because he picked it up from falling down and he restructured the civil system. Okay. Now, people say, oh, common law, equity, this, that, but it's all civil law. And then they tell you that, like, if you go into the federal rules of civil procedure, it says there shall be one form of action, the civil action. In other words, everything that you could bring to this court is under the civil umbrella. Now, I say that to make this point. Out of the 8 million laws that they've legislated out there, they all fall into one of three categories under the civil law. It's either the law of status, the law of property, or the law of obligation, which we know is agreements and contracts. What are you obligated to do and why? Right? So law of status, law of property, and law of obligation. What is our status? Are we slaves or are we free? Right? Well, apparently they think we're slaves. So we need to change that status, right? And that's a declaration. We just declare that. Here's who I am. Right? Now, there's also property. Well, what is property? Property is everything tangible and intangible. A right is property. This body is property. This cup is property, right? The agreement you and I have together that we wrote down in a contract is property. Everything is property. Okay, now who owns what? That's where we get into the civil side of it, right? Who owns what? So we're going to declare that. We're going to declare this is the property that I control. And I don't own anything, because if I'm a man of God, this whole ownership thing is a lie, because God, the supreme creator, is all part of that. So if I believe in ownership, clearly I'm lying to you if I say I own this, right? Or sorry, I'm not lying to you. I believe I own it, but that's a lie, because I can't own it, because God owns it. So then you have the law of obligation. Well, what obligates me to you? So what I've done is I've created a whole template document thing that I set people up with. It starts out with a trust, and then a power of attorney, and then a declaration of status, property, and obligation. And that locks everything. This is my declaration of independence, my relationship to those three categories through everything in life that I can think of, right? In blocks of categories. Now that takes about 83 paragraphs to lay out. But all that documentation is there. So then I record that in the county court, and now I've got something to stand on when someone comes against me. Wait a minute, I've declared who I am in this illusion and my relationship to it all, starting with my divine right and my heirship to the kingdom of heaven. So if I'm an heir to the kingdom of heaven, like the book says, then you have no right, without you and I agreeing or disagreeing, you have no right to come in and take any of this from me. And I'm not going to fight you for it. I'm just going to call you out that you broke the universal law. That's all. That's all I have to do. I don't have to fight you. I just got to go, no, you broke the universal law. And you will pay for that as you go through your process of reincarnation and whatever the fact may be. You will pay for that if you don't straighten it out here on this planet. The thing we're seeing now is there's so many souls on this planet that know how to stop that movement forward of them crossing that line over that universal law, that they're really grasping at straws right now. They're counting on the majority of the people being asleep so that they can continue the nefarious, traversing of the universal law. But that's where we're at. So I take the universal law, God's law, and I bring it all the way down through man's law, and I declare that, bam, now this is protected. But it's not just enough to have paper. You have to understand, I could declare that on paper all day long, create a record, public notice, there you go. The guardianship comes in where people like myself can defend that Because I'm gonna probably most likely have to do that for everybody else too, because not everybody's gonna, like you said, they're not gonna be on the side of the road talking to the officer with the wit and the knowledge and the strength and the fearlessness to be able to educate these guys and put them in their position,
It takes a
standing on the
lot of
document.
life experience and learning to get to a point where you can combine.
It does,
all the
but you
things.
have to start with your declaration. You have to declare, I am no longer a slave. My property is the only property I own is this body. And I don't even own it. God owns it. I'm a trustee. I'm a steward. I was given this body in trust, and you are violating the trust by violating me, because I didn't give you the authority as the steward of this body to alter this body, to damage this body, to abuse this body. I didn't give you that right. So you don't have it, right? You took that right. You took that property from, that's called trespass.